Rich Klitzberg, you are a Wall Street MVP whose extraordinary success over the past 45 years is fueled by a potent combination of grit and intellect. Green Terror basketball coach Dick Clower observed that winning combination when he first met you back in July of 1959, after you and your father drove from your home in Brooklyn, New York, to meet him in the Old Gill Gymnasium. After making 6 outside shots and 11 straight foul shots, Coach invited you to save it all for the team. So you enrolled as a freshman that fall with a political science major and a specialization in pre-law. At 6'1", you earned the nickname Shotgun and often made gold bug headlines over 4 victorious years during which you scored 1,351 points. You can applaud that. Your name went into the record books as a top scorer and was entered into the Sports Hall of Fame with your 1994 induction. ROTC, Student Government Association, and the Alpha Gamma Tau fraternity, I'll pause again, also focused your abundant energy, and after graduating in 1963 with a commission as a second lieutenant in the Army, you went on to the University of Baltimore School of Law, earning your Juris Doctorate in 1966. Early in your career, you established yourself as both an entrepreneur and as an innovator in the business of investing and wealth management. In 1982, you founded Klitzberg Associates Incorporated to consult to and market for specialty investment managers. Your company has been instrumental in raising more than $8 billion in assets for leveraged buyout firms, venture capital, private equity, real estate, and hedge funds. A decade ago, you also launched Klitzberg Fund Solutions with offices in Princeton, New Jersey, and Boca Raton, Florida. Over all these years, you have faithfully returned to the Hill to share your wisdom and wealth, serving as both a trustee from 1994 to 2000 and an alumni volunteer. And you continue to serve on the college as a member of the board's investment committee. In 2007, a generous gift by both you and Judy Callahan Klitzberg, your classmate and wife of more than 50 years, allowed us to build and dedicate the Klitzberg Pavilion, the handsome main entrance to the Gill complex that has become a popular gathering space for our scholar athletes and for all these people to drink. During your couldn't tell if that was Jim or Doug. I know it's one of you. During your annual visits to classrooms as a guest speaker, you have encouraged scores of students over the years to pursue lucrative careers on Wall Street, assuring them there is no shame in making money so long as it's done ethically. The class of 2016 alumna Julia Wainwright is now a financial analyst at J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, thanks in large part to the remarkable mentoring you provided while she interned with your company the summer before her senior year. Rich, your positive impact on this campus through professional efforts, philanthropy, and continued connection will continue to pay dividends for McDaniel far into the future. With tremendous gratitude and respect, it is our honor to recognize all of your accomplishments with the college's Trustee Alumni Award. Marty?
Acting on behalf of the Board of Trustees, it is my honor to present the Trustee Alumni Award in appreciation of Mr. Klitzberg's distinction and service to his community and college. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you. Thank you. Come on in between us here.
You guys are going to be really disappointed. If I knew that Les was coming armed like that, I'd have stayed home. I got nothing. First time in my life the weapon is empty. And we start off with a real problem here. The guy in the back is filming this, and he came over to me and he said, as a rule, we like to film the subject's best side, and you don't have one. So I thought that was a crappy way to start. I really did. And I'll get him later for that. I will. My story is really simple. I came here in 1959, as was indicated, to meet Dick Clower. And I was about 140 pounds, 5'11", and I had skin like a baby's tush. And now if I sit down in a department store while my wife shops, I get sold as an alligator handbag, which is no fun, because it's happened more than once. This is a place that I hold dear and cherish. To be serious, the three greatest gifts in my life came from Western Maryland College. The first was a classic liberal arts education, which nowadays is denigrated. Even at the great universities in the country, they've dropped classes like Western Civilization, which I took, and other classics that led generations into broad careers. That doesn't exist anymore. It's very, very difficult to find classic educations. The second gift that the college gave me was a thirst for learning. And when I come back in October and speak to the kids, I explain that I have become a voracious reader, and I use that phrase, a voracious reader. And if you came to my home, I have two homes. If you came to my home in Boca Raton, Florida, or in Princeton, you would find walls of books that I take pride in buying and reading, because books have been the key to my life. I learned a long time ago that there is no substitute for trying to make yourself the smartest guy in the room. And I'm in a business where people from Harvard and Stanford and Wharton abound. I have to compete with them every single day. And I refuse to give in to them simply because they have a pedigree that is stronger than mine. And so I've dedicated my life in my own career and in the way I've handled my children to making sure that they exercise their intellect as God gave them. And that's one of the proudest things that I took from this college. The third gift that I got from Western Maryland was the greatest gift of all, because I met the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen walk down a hill to Harvey Stone Park for something that the Gentile kids called Vespers. Now, when you grow up in a black neighborhood in Brooklyn, you don't Vesper. Because if you Vesper, you can get your ass kicked. So you don't say Vesper, okay? Not even close. So I didn't Vesper until that Harvey Stone thing, and then I saw her walk, and I figured if she could Vesper, I could Vesper. And so I pursued her, and there were problems. This was not easy. I was a Jewish kid with parents who were Orthodox, and she was not Jewish, and her parents were not Orthodox. Her maiden name was Callahan. This was Abies Iris Rose writ large. I lived it. Very, very difficult situation, but we plugged through and ultimately got married. And on April 9th, we celebrated our 52nd anniversary. Now, I'll give you, what I really want to do tonight in the minutes that I have left is I want to tell you who I am and what I've become. Because most of the people in this room don't know me, I don't know you, I don't know what you've done, and more importantly, you don't know what I've done to stand here and get an award from the college. So I'm going to try to tell you with a very selfish motive. I want, at the end of my remarks, for you to leave the room feeling that the award is justified. Okay? If I don't get that, I'm giving it back. So here goes. Graduated from here in '63, University of Baltimore, '66, passed the bar in '67, went into the Army for 2 years, served to the rank of captain. Instead of going to practice law, I took the biggest risk of my life after consultation with my wife, and I went to Wall Street. Now, mind you, father came from Poland, mother came from Austria, no books in the house. Total income from 2 working parents, $4,500. Now, you can adjust that, mother, all you want, okay? All of the economists in this room, you can use all of the indicators you want to make the number bigger. $4,500 meant that I lived in a slum, okay? In a genuine rat-infested slum. So when I came here with my father in June '59, he said to me in Yiddish, "Schmeckt das euch gut hier," which means it smells so good here. And he said in Yiddish, "You could be a big fish here. You could be a big fish here." And I took that to heart. My father was not educated, but he had wisdom. I took that to heart. I went to Wall Street, and in the last 48 years, I've only done 3 things. And I didn't do them on purpose. I did them because I saw opportunities that other people didn't see, and unknowingly and without checking whether or not it was commonly done, I set up a consultancy at a brokerage firm in 1974, which was completely unheard of. And Jay Bowes, who's my guest tonight, worked with me during the '70s to grow a business that didn't exist in any other brokerage firm anywhere in the world. Today, if you go into a brokerage firm and you have $50,000 or $500,000 or $500 million, they have departments that screen money managers and will find somebody supposedly suited to you. I was the first guy to do that in 1974. Jay joined me in 1975. So we were pioneers in a sense. We were doing things that nobody else did. And it flourished. The department grew 200% a year. Our clients were Arthur Andersen and Westinghouse in the state of Connecticut and the state of Louisiana and labor unions all over the country, and they flocked to us. And I spent all of my days meeting with professionals who managed money. And it was the equivalent of earning 3 doctorates. Because if you say to a money manager that you have a client with $200 million, he will run through fire to get to speak to you. And so I had a procession of money managers from around the world who came to see us at this department. You couldn't help but learn. And so I became proficient and got to the point where if there were debates in rooms or at boards, there was deference to me because presumably I knew the answers. So I had to dance on my toes and make sure that I stayed ahead of the competition. I did that for 11 years, and we had about $50 billion that we had advised. And in 1980, when I left, $50 billion was a lot of money. So I took that first opportunity and grew it. The second job I had was as president of a firm that became the first firm in the world to manage junk bonds, what were called junk bonds. Nobody in the world knew about junk bonds, nobody heard about them, more importantly, nobody bought them. There was a guy named Milken out in California who was underwriting these bonds, and I got on a plane and I visited Michael and quickly knew that he was one of the 10 smartest guys in any room. in any room. He was drop dead brilliant. I stayed there a year and a half, and I raised $450 million from places like IBM, Xerox, Standard of Indiana, the World Bank, etc. Big, big places. And it was in this role that I learned my greatest life skill, which is the bane of everybody in the world who's in sales. I learned how to cold call. Cold call is the unasked for ringing of a telephone in the middle of a busy guy's day from someone he doesn't know and doesn't want to speak to. And somehow you have to extract his time, his attention, and in my case, his money. So it's an unending challenge that I still do to this day, every day of my working life. I still call strangers around the world and ask them about their money. That's how I've made my living since 1969. Our clients today are a veritable who's who. The names are astounding for a kid who came from a slum. The Rothschilds, our clients. The Quants, a name nobody knows. They own a little car company called BMW. People like that, governments, labor unions, corporations, endowments. My clients have included little places like Princeton, Stanford, North Carolina, Duke, the University of Virginia, a veritable plethora of the best and the brightest places on the planet who are intensely concerned about the billions of dollars that they husband. And the greatest gift they've given me is that when the secretary says to the head of the board or the head of the department, Rich Klitzberg is on the phone, they take my call. Okay? So the trip from sitting on a bench outside a tenement singing La Bamba to getting phone calls and getting answers from people of substance has been a very, very long trip indeed. The other thing that I learned is risk. To understand and evaluate and contemplate and learn the intricacies of risk in investing. People describe themselves as conservative and have no idea what that means. People talk about not wanting to encounter risk and have no idea what that means. Sam Hunter came over to me earlier and talked about starting businesses. And I said, there are two things you do when you start a business. You have to have a large set, and you have to have an understanding of the risks in all of their parameters. Otherwise, you don't succeed. And so I've learned over the 48 years that I've been on Wall Street that, now whether it came from the tenement or whether it came from playing basketball here or wherever it came from, I have a very keen insight into risk, and I don't fear it. The last thing I did the last job I had was to set up Klitzberg Associates. Now, we did something that nobody in the world had ever heard of. We started to raise money for private equity and hedge funds and venture capital when those things were unknown, even to the institutional community. And I've been kicked out of a lot of very good places for suggesting very stupid ideas, like investing in hedge funds and private equity, which now everybody in the world does and takes credit for doing. So that's been a very edifying, very interesting facet of my career. I played basketball here for 4 years and continued to play mostly with black kids in Jersey. Played till the age of 36 and held my own. Used to trash talk a lot to kids, especially the older I got. And then one night I came home and I had blood all over my face and I didn't realize it. And Judy said, your basketball career is over. So, because you have to go to work tomorrow and you look like you were in a gang war. So a friend of mine invited me to play tennis. And we played 19 sets in 12 minutes and he beat me 6-love in 19 sets. And then I said, please, let me be rid of you. And he said, no, you hit the ball very hard and you run very fast. So I'm going to teach you how to play. We played in the tournament at the end of that summer, and I beat him for the championship. And then we became fast friends and doubles partners for 30 years. And we played tennis on 3 continents. And we were ranked nationally and locally. And it became, just a great second undertaking, which I did till age 58 when I broke my back for the 3rd time and had to give it up. You can now see me and Judy proudly fast walking, power walking, down A1A in Boca Raton all day long, just up and back. Try to keep fit and not become a fat slob. Interestingly, the things, just a little insight into things that we have interest in. We're raising money for a distressed energy fund. That's a whole story unto itself. And for all of you who are academics and we're in that environment, we're going to try to raise money for a Canadian student housing fund. Have anybody of you gone to college, undergraduate or graduate in Canada? That's what I expected. In Canada, when you go to college, unlike the United States, when you sign, you have tuition, room, and board in Canada, they don't give you a dormitory room. Your father has to find you an apartment. 1 in 10 kids in Canada gets a dormitory room. So the economics of providing housing to students from around the world who go to places like McGill and the University of Manitoba and other places are very compelling. You make very, very good returns simply for providing a place for a kid to sleep. So those are the kinds of things that we look for. Personally, the greatest gifts that my wife gave me were my 3 children. Rob, who's 50, Dana, who's here, the best private chef on the island of Manhattan, and Jamie, who works for me down in Boca Raton. And Jamie has 3 sons who are my grandsons. And what we're going to do now is we're going to dim the lights and show 30 minutes of slides of these remarkable kids, to include 2 of them having BMs. So this is full disclosure, okay? On a personal note, Judy and I collect art. Collect art? Yes, we collect art. And she collects ancient Asian celadons and bronzes, things that are 3,000 and 4,000 and 5,000 years old. I swear to you, if I knew that this was going to happen in our marriage, I never would have gone for it. Never. Been explaining celadons for 35 years. But she collects them, and she has a great collection and loves doing that. I'm going to end on a final note, which is a reflection of my love for this college and my concern for the state of the academy in 2017. This is not a political statement. It's an observation of the world in which we live. The academy is under attack. Political correctness and the challenge of the First Amendment has never existed on college campuses as it does now. There are 2 things that I wish for McDaniel in the years ahead. The first is that the endowment committee makes enough money so we turn the $113 million into $200 and $250 over time to give the college the security that it so desperately needs, that all small colleges need. And the second, the second is much more heartfelt. It is that this school never become Columbia or Berkeley or any of the other schools that have grabbed headlines for behavior that I find shameful. And I don't think, from what I know of this place, that that's apt to happen, but I pray it doesn't. And all of that is in the hands of this president today and a great administration. Don't let this place become a headline. It's too cherished by too many of us. Thank you.